Hey guys, how you doing? So, rollback for Super Smash Bros. Melee has been out for quite a while now, allowing lots of people to get involved. And you might be thinking to yourself, if you're coming from Ultimate, or if you're coming from like any other fighting game, or just you want to try it again, you're going on there and you're getting whooped, absolutely bodied, back to back, 4 stocks, JV5s, you're getting comboed, you're getting clipped on, and instead of that happening to you, you want to be the one to do it. Well, you've come to the right place. My name is Aiken. I'm ranked 8th in the UK PR. I'm a math main, and I'm here to give you all the advice you're going to need. I got the top 10, count them, 10, 1, 2, 3, 10. Trust me, once I do all of them, it would add up to 10 tips for you. I've split into 2 different sections. It's going to be like the first 4 tips are like if you're brand new and you need, or like just some general advice for new people. With the second 4 tips being a kind of like intermediate level tips. You know, once you've mastered the first 4, you've got the next 4, and then the 5th tip itself is kind of the gap, right? It bridges it. So if you're brand new, you might just want to stick around for the first couple minutes, but if you really want to step up your game, make sure you catch all of the video, guys. So without further ado, tip number 10. Tip number 10, super easy. It's just find your main. Okay, what does that mean if you've never played a fighting game before or anything like this? A main is a character that you pretty much all but exclusively play. In tournament, in your practice, they're the one you've chosen you're going to learn melee through, and they're the ones you're going to master. You're going to know how to use all of their tools properly, all of their punishment options, how they play in certain matchups, things like this. There's many different ways to do it, but mostly I find like experimentation with like a couple characters is the best way. It doesn't matter if you personally play for like a couple months before you really find your main. Who knows, maybe even after like a year, you'll just try out some other character and you really like some of the options that they've got going on, and they'll pick you and they'll find it. But if you can find it right away, that's just super helpful, because obviously having to learn one character and just without what they do, so much easier than trying to learn like a 3 or 4 at the same time. Melee is already so deep, and it is very much about how well you can play your character and stuff like that. Even you can hear pro players like Armada themselves say, you know, you just pick one character and then learn them. That's the easiest way to get good very quickly. So tip number 1 is just going to be find your main. Very, very simple. And tip number 2, kind of leading off of that one, a good way to maybe even find your main is to watch a lot of Melee. Now, the reason you're going to watch a lot of Melee is because you can kind of almost learn by osmosis, you know, like watching different scenarios play out like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, like you just kind of internalize what's going on. It's why a lot of like Melee players have been around for years. Everyone has a Fox, because we all just know what Fox does. It takes like a couple minutes, you know, to actually control the dude a little bit, and then once you've got his control down, like you just know how his combos work, because you've seen it so much, and it can be the same. Maybe you really like watching Sheik. Initially, that was kind of how I got into it. I was binge watching M2K and his math, you know, just gimping fools 50-50 center stage, and I found that stuff fascinating, you know, as a math main that I am. And eventually I was able to just, you know, internalize a lot of that, add my own style to it, and now I'm 8th on the PR. So watching a lot of Melee is a great way to like learn about your character, learn about the game. And you just might find a situation that you want to lab out yourself, which takes us right into number 3. Oh boy, let me not check my notes here because I forgot what it was. Oh no. Of course, you've picked your main, you've watched the scenarios, and now it's time to take them to the lab. What does that mean? Well, there's 2 different forms of the lab in Melee that you really want to get accustomed to. First of all is Uncle Punch, which is a lot easier to start with, and is probably where you should start, honestly. So Uncle Punch is amazing because it's got a list of different scenarios you'll have in Melee, or different little exercises and practice regimens you can just run over and over with your favorite character and just really get it in there, get it in your muscle memory, get it in your actual memory, you know, get in your heart, I think is the most important one. Once it's in your heart, in a tournament set, that practice will come out. You're going to want to, you know, just some simple ones I'd recommend. The most important ones, L cancel training. In there you can just practice your character's movement. In the words of UK's ranked number 1, Professor Pro, if you're trying to play Melee and you can't move your character, it's like playing basketball without being able to dribble. It's very important. So get in the L cancel training and just learn movement, like first of all, really. Like, just put it in perspective, if you're like in a match and you think, I need to do this to win the match, but then you physically can't move your character, you're not really going to be able to do it, are you? So, get in there, get moving. And then for 20XX, which is like the next level up, you can... There's a lot of videos out there, I'll probably link some in the description. You can set this thing up in any way you want and practice any like tiny, weird, specific thing, different punishes, just test out everything like frame by frame. When you're like in it and you really want to study Melee, then 20XX is the place you want to go. But if you want to just work on some basic routines and stuff like that, then stick to Uncle Punch. And tip number 4, surrounding it out for our more newbie-friendly advice, which it's kind of leading off the second one. Probably should have led with it, but I think it's less important. This is like if you're really keening it, you know, you found your character, you're watching them, you're labbing them, but now your brain's not really coming up with anything new. So what can you do? This is where you turn to the online resources are available for you. Things like Smashboards, of course, Melee Library. There's different Reddit threads, countless Discords. There is so much written content out there for you. I didn't put this one ahead because I think the others are easier because they're just playing, watching, and doing some practice, but like really getting in there and reading about like your character or specific matchups, things like SDJ has written about Captain Falcon, or Armada's written about Peach on the MYOM page. There's a lot of information out there for you to find about your character, and it's like, it would take you years to figure it out because it took them years to figure it out. However, you can just learn about it in minutes, right? So get reading, get studying. Again, some links might be in the description, depends if I remember or not. So with that first 4 out of the way, we're now going into number 5, which is our transition tip. So following this, it's going to be a little more advanced, a little more, you know, complicated, a little more I'm dedicated to Melee, and like I'm going to go to tournaments and compete, and I want to get out of pools, I want to do well. If that fits you, then the next ones are for you. So number 5, this one is the gap between them, and I'm not really gonna say much about this one. I'm gonna be pretty short. But tip number 5 is, follow me here. Get a loan. The bigger loan you can get, the better. Especially now under current COVID conditions, it's really easy to get some good loans under low interest rates and things like that. I don't know, obviously, like globally speaking, but depending on where you are, it's pretty easy to sort something out. And even if it doesn't have low interest rates, you'll make the money back when you're winning your EVOs, when you're winning your CEOs. Now, what are you going to want to do with this money? Why am I getting a loan, you might be asking? Okay, well, we're going to go straight into number 6. You're going to need to buy a controller.
So here we are on the Controller Chaos website, looking at some of their tournament edition controllers, because, you know, that's what we're after, a controller for tournaments. And you can see here, they're all themed in, like, different tournament health styles. They look pretty cool. I like the Genesis ones. I think they look pretty sick. And, like, you know, if you were to have the Genesis, like, 6 or 7 controller, you probably would have played better at Genesis 6 or 7. Not just because of the art would have been with you, but these controllers are the top of the line. And you've just got your loan, so it's not even your money. So you can throw it at this, like, no problem. Like, you might be thinking $200, that's a lot. But professional level equipment requires professional prices. Okay, people? You understand that? This is going to be very important for you. You can't be missing your dashbacks in the middle of your combos. You need one of these controllers. Okay? So get yourself this with the loan that you just got, and then we're going to get over to the next tip.
And tip number 7 is that you, with all this loan and everything you've got now, your controller and a big financial backing, it is now time to quit your job or quit school. Okay, now that might sound kind of crazy, but like I said, this is for the more dedicated people, right? So if you're thinking about it, if you're working a job, you're probably working like 30 to 40 hours a week. If you're like studying for university or in high school or something like that, I think it's probably about the same time, around 30 hours. It depends on like what your course or what level of education you're in. But if you know, it's pretty easy to see. If you take that time out and replace it with Melee, you're going to get very good, very fast. Lots of results. You're going to have lots of time for labbing, lots of time for player analysis, just theory crafting, stuff like that. You really wouldn't have this time available to you if you're doing something like working a full-time job. That's the way it is sometimes, but you can't be doing that if you want to be a top-level competitor, and that's what these tips are for, you know? You should have left back in the first 4 tips if you don't think what I'm talking right now makes sense, because you're not about it. You're not a fucking winner, alright? So, now that you don't have anything tying you down to where you physically are, you've got a good financial backing behind you from your loan, and like you're playing a lot of Melee, you don't have school or job or anything like that to worry about, what you're going to need to do now is, this depends on where you live as to like realistically what your options are going to be, but you're going to need to move. Flat out. If you live in a region that sucks, you gotta move. If you live in the UK like I do, you gotta move to London or Bristol. That's just where the players are. If you live in Germany, I don't fucking know. If you live in Sweden, you gotta move to Stockholm. If you live in the USA, you gotta move to SoCal. You gotta move to Florida. That's just the way it is. You're here to get good, okay? You're not here to make excuses anymore. That was done. You got the loan. You went to the bank. Why are you not moving, okay? If your region's just full of shit players, what are you gonna do? You're just gonna farm them. You're gonna make like what? $10 a week off of it? It's just not worth it. There's no reason to do anything like that. It would be way better for you as a competitor. SFAT did it, and look what it did for his results. Wonders, okay? If you take the game seriously and you move to an area with higher competition, of course it's just going to do better for you if your practice level is higher. right? And it will also help with the next tip, tip number 9, which I'm just going to say now. No transition, none of this fancy stuff. We're getting into it. You're passionate, you're believing, you're taking this in. I'm giving you the advice now. Tip number 9, you're going to fly out the top players that aren't in the place you've just moved to, all right? Their level of competition isn't good enough, okay? The best players are spread around the world. The 2 best players in the world at one point were across the Atlantic compared to where everyone else was, okay? They flew themselves in. How much better would it have been if you could have just flown them in for the practice, huh? Think about that, you know? If you're in SoCal, fly some of the Florida players there. Fly over your Plups, fly over your Gutsus, fly over your Cole Balls. They're just going to give you good practice. They're going to give you different styles. And, you know, if you live in Europe, then damn, like, you could probably crowdfund that, right? Like, I'm pretty sure if we wanted to get, like, some people over, we could just get the local scenes together and pay for some of these top players to fly over. Like, I'd personally love that. They can't stay in my place, but, you know, we could sort something out. So, yeah, if you're flying out the top players, you're just going to get really good practice. And maybe your scene doesn't have a particular matchup or something like that. You know, there's no real good moths. Just fly Zane. He'll take it. He likes a lot of melee. So, yeah, tip number 9 is flying players out. Here we are at tip number 10. This is actually, I made this one a little less, like, it's very much for both sides of the coin that I've set up here. If you're very keen or if you just kind of wanted to, like, casually improve, this tip is pretty good for both of you, because if you've stuck it out all this way, you know, I thank you. Thanks very much. I really appreciate it. You can go ahead and click down there to subscribe, and if you DM me directly, I'll, like, you know, give you my PayPal or nudes or whatever. We can talk something out. Practice coaching sessions, whatever. So tip number 10, we're finally here, boys. Thank you very much for waiting it. Don't forget to like as well as doing the subscribe. Favorite the video. I think that does something for the algorithm. I don't know. Share it with all your friends. Maybe they need some of this advice. Maybe they need to hear the hashtag real talk. You know, maybe they haven't found their main yet or something like that, or they don't want to buy a controller, or they don't want to move. They're not really about it. Send them this video and let them know it's what they got to do. I'm 8th on the PR. I know what I'm talking about, all right? I've been on this grind since some time ago. I've been on it for a very long time, okay? I've beaten people, I've lost to people, I've had hardships. I know what I'm talking about, and you can have this too, okay? You just need to listen to me. I'm giving you this advice for free. I normally charge people for this advice, okay? So tip number 10, the one that I normally charge people for, is just play lame. If you're just attacking second, you're gonna win. A lot of melee is honestly just whiff punishing. Wait for people to mess up their movement. Wait for them to do something dumb. Everyone's trying so hard to be sick. They're just going to run into your moves eventually if you're just playing a little bit smart. So, yeah. I mean, HBox made a whole thing off of that. He almost got called the GOAT, like the GOAT of melee, because he just ran away and back-aired for like 3 years and no one really knew how to deal with it, you know? If you're a Moth, you just sit back, attack. That's what Zane does. He just runs. These are the 10 tips that I have for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, of course, remember to watch melee tournaments and support them in these trying times. And when tournaments do come back, if you haven't ever been to one, definitely go. If you're really keen on going, take some of this video to heart, you know, really give it your all and post in the comments what results you get. And I hope you fall in love with the game as much as we all have. Like, it's a cult. And you'll see it. You'll feel it. You'll live, you'll laugh, and you'll love. That's going to be it for me today, guys. Peace out. Mwah.